Hello and a warm welcome to all Year 5 parents. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Anna Talalis, and on behalf of the Year 5 pastoral team, I'd like to start by saying that meeting with you and answering questions, even through the medium of an online virtual meeting, is an important step in the success and happiness of your children and our students. In fact, the well-being of our students is at the very center of everything that we do at school and of every decision that we take in these challenging times. What we all want is certainty, that our students will be safe, that they will do well, and that life will go back to normal. Young people are in particular need of this certainty. Their questions to us repeatedly ask, what if and when will? Providing routines, stability and structure to Year 5 is something my colleagues will talk about in a few minutes. Before we move on though, please consider these points. Year 5 is historically a difficult year. By now, under more normal circumstances, we would be encouraging students to give up extracurricular and leisure pursuits and focus on studying and revision. The stress of exams for Year 5 has always been there. We also can't know how each and every young person is facing the pandemic. Depending on the individual circumstances of each student, they can be experiencing stress, anxiety, and even trauma. A full year of downtime and restricted freedom evaporated most contextual structure and disconnected our students from their peers, family, friends, teachers, sports, nightlife, parties, sleepovers, side jobs, internships, travel, festivals, and picnics in the park. All outlets closed. Now, this may seem minor compared to the tragedies playing out in hospitals, intensive care units, nursing homes, but to young people, it means the world. Students around the globe are grieving and experiencing loneliness, pessimism about their future, worry about their close relatives getting sick, and loss of motivation for activities they previously enjoyed. 1/3 report anxiety and/or sleep problems, irritability, listlessness, and depression. And since the end of 2020, these numbers have been on the rise. We have a moral duty to help students participate in society on an equal footing and find meaning and purpose in the patterned activities of their daily lives. This is our responsibility as adults in a caring and civilized society. Students need their families, teachers, sports coaches, and others as gatekeepers to identify problems, refer them to professionals, develop talent, and stimulate positive self-talk. With this in mind, I'd like to pass on to my colleague, Ms. Niki Melanidou, Head of Year 5, who will continue. Ms. Melanidou is working tirelessly with students individually and with the year group as a whole, as well as with their form tutors and subject teachers.
Thank you, Mrs. Talalis. Dear parents, I'm Niki Melanidou and I am the head of Year 5. My role is to guide and support students' well-being and academic achievement, ensuring students achieve to the best of their ability. I provide pastoral management to pupils working with form tutors, teachers, and school management to implement and ensure that students follow policies and procedures. These year exams are one of the pivotal exams in any student's life as they act as a stepping stone for their future. Parents can do a lot to motivate their child and help them prepare for the exams. So, how parents can help students during exams? During the exams, a difficult syllabus and other academic factors cause high stress among school students. Parents need to be aware of all the stress factors in their child's life and avoid setting unrealistic targets. Instead of pressuring your child to study, you could offer gentle encouragement and motivate them to work as hard as possible. It is essential to assure them that you are there for them and that you will support them irrespective of their exam results. Many students get so busy in their study schedule that eating and sleeping on time take a back seat. You can encourage them to switch to fruits and juices if they can't bring themselves to eat a full meal. Another key thing you can do is ensure that the kids step away from their books for a walk or a stroll at least once a day. Some fresh air and some exercise boost memory and brain function. Additionally, you can advise your children to take frequent naps if they prefer studying through the night. Spending the entire day in front of the books or the screen can be detrimental to your child's mental and emotional health. Therefore, to boost study time concentration, encourage your child to continue with their leisure activities to help them get a much-needed break from their books. Many experts believe that instead of promising your child one big reward at the end of the exams, you can set many mini rewards to celebrate every mini milestone that your child meets. This can be long-term or short-term rewards. For instance, short-term goals can be completing a chapter or a certain number of mock tests. Experts believe that students perform better if you set targets for their entire preparation journey and reward each target with many mini rewards to motivate them. It is important to remember that these mini rewards do not have to be large gifts, but can be small treats from a favorite dinner, movie, a day off, anything that will help your child study better and harder. To ensure that each day is balanced and yet helps the students meet their study targets, you can help them create a daily timetable. Occasionally, students may also need guidance to help them stay on the schedule. The days of the exams are crucial, not only before the exam, but also after the exam. Therefore, after every exam, it is important to spend some time understanding how that particular paper went and calming the student down if the exam was particularly hard. You can also use this time to support your child for the next exam and giving them a much-needed pat on the back. Exams are one of the most stressful times for an entire household. Often parents worry, wondering what can they do to help their child do better in the exams. Dear parents, can you remember a time that you pulled an all-nighter finishing a project? Or a time that you beat yourself up over a grade that you got? Or more commonly, a grade that you didn't get? Can you remember a time that you felt yourself being consumed by your stress? Yes, because we have all been there. Our children's mental health is without a doubt more important than their grades. Their mental health is more important than most things. It should be one of the biggest priorities. To the student that is listening to this right now, who very likely might be stressing over their future or their grades or whatever else it is that students stress about, remember to breathe. You are so much more than a grade point average in a computer system. You are more than a student. You are a person. You are you. And that is your advantage. Maybe you don't have the highest grades, and perhaps you are not the best studier or the best student. And these things are more than okay. Take a step back. Take your head out of your book and think about the larger picture. Yes, hard work leads to success. So yes, it is important to work hard. But maintaining your sanity and living a healthy life is a way more important than hard work or success or any of these things will ever be. Just remember, all of this next time you are crumbling under pressure or breaking down from the stress. Now, Mrs. Maria Papagapiou, our school's inclusion officer, will share with you some of the strategies for study and well-being she recommends to the students she works with that can be helpful for everyone at this time. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Nikki, and I'd like to welcome everybody and explain my role in the school as the inclusion officer is to support students who may need additional support with attention or focus issues or organization, and in instances too where the student needs support with motivation to stretch and challenge themselves as they prepare for their exams to fulfill their potential. So what I wanted to reiterate firstly is what Anna and Nikki have said with regards to treating our children holistically and feeding the heart so that they can feed their brains or be successful. It's important to maintain the routines, the breaks, the motivational rewards in a way that recognizes that they cannot be just exam grade producers, that they need to feel respected, loved, supported for the whole person that they are, with all the struggles and anxieties that they might have right now. So in such times of uncertainty, all students need to be helped to maintain clear goals through clear expectations. So the advance notice that they have for their exams are very important in that respect, because it anchors them into what they know they can prepare for in a time when many things have changed and shifted over the last few months and year. One thing I do is to help students chunk their study, which means that they break down their revision into manageable pieces. I make sure that students have targets and goals to reach by the end of their study session, and they have opportunities to reflect on how their study has gone and to set themselves new goals or next steps. Each student may need to learn in a very different way and to revise in a very different way to others. So be aware that your children may want to collaborate or work with their friends as they revise, and that's a very good opportunity. There are tools online that help them speak to text or organize diagrams, graphic organizers, and use any kind of mnemonics or memory tools that help them. This is an example of a study grid that I share with students that I support, in which students are encouraged to break their study down to smaller chunks. So stay aware that if a child is cramming for 2.5 to 3 hours, they're not necessarily learning in a productive way. There's a reason why even the class periods in school are broken down into 45 or 50-minute sessions. We want students to be aware that their brains will need a break. Sometimes after 20 minutes, they need to move around and refresh their brains through movement. Definitely by 40 or 45 minutes of study, there should be 5 to 10 minutes of movement, a short break, followed by another small healthy chunk of study for it to be effective. So we don't want to be cramming, because when we cram for 3 or 4 hours non-stop, we then stop for another 2 hours and feel really exhausted and crash. We want to avoid that, and we want to break down our revision into smaller, healthier chunks. Similarly, targets and goals for each revision sessions are really helpful, because it helps students to know what they're working towards. They're not just absorbing notes passively, they're rereading their notes, and they are making themselves do a small section of a past paper. So that's a clear outcome for their study session that they, even if they don't fully meet, it's helped give them a sense of purpose and a sense of being able to reflect on how they did by the end of the session and set themselves next steps. This doesn't have to be followed to a T. It's a suggestion, as is everything that we're saying, but it is a way in which students can break things down and give themselves more manageable goals and targets and something to reflect on and move on from at the end of their session. So we recognize that for the grown-ups in our students' lives, it's also a very challenging time, but it remains the case that it's our unique role as parents and teachers to model or show them a sense of reassurance and a sense of resilience that gets us through these times of uncertainty and constant change. So wherever possible, stay positive and optimistic and reassuring for your children, as we're trying to do too, in a way that shows them that we are emotionally available for them, that we are there for them to come to us with their uncertainties, and we will be stable and calm as best we can to absorb that as their parents and teachers. Help yourselves and your children to feel that there's comfort and acceptance in being good enough, in doing our best and using the support that's available around us. And I also encourage students and families I work with to understand that every child needs a sense of ownership of their learning and on their success. So we don't want to supervise them at all times. We want to be able to support them when they come to us, absorb their questions and concerns when they come to us, but also show them that we trust them to be successful and to have the responsibility for their learning process and their academic careers. So it's important that we allow that space for the confusion, the fears and the tears, that we compartmentalize for ourselves and for our children all the anxieties that are completely normal under these circumstances. And I sometimes recommend the worry box, whereby we know that between 7 and 7:20 I will allow myself this evening to worry about all the worries that have come in my head all day. But any other part of the day, I'll place that concern in that box and say, I'll deal with you later. Obviously, we also want you to know that there is help and support within the school, and it's okay to say, I don't know, I'm struggling to cope, and it's very realistic to use the help that's available from the school too. I'll talk to you about the support that's within the school in a minute. I wanted to also just say, as Nikki did, that it's wonderful to have rewards and optimistic goals to look forward to at the end of revision within the revision schedule, but of course there's summer coming up after a very challenging year, so I urge families to just give the students a holiday, a booking to look forward to, and they'll get to relax and have that time. Finally, as I said, we want you to feel comfortable to come to the school for the support that is available to you to manage anxiety and stress for your children and yourselves. You can, of course, contact form tutors and the head of year for learning and emotional support, but we have an excellent school-based counsellor in Olivia Kiriakou who is available to families and works very respectfully and very closely with parents and students for realistic and practical steps towards support at a very difficult time. It's confidential counselling, it's voluntary counselling, and it always needs the consent of the parents. But what Olivia has is a great deal of experience working with our students, so she's coming from a place where she can really meaningfully support families that are struggling at this time. So please use the support that's there. Please stay in touch with us. I'm going to hand over to the headmaster, Mr. Lambon, now, who will continue.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this evening. My role is to talk a little bit around the conversion of all the information we have to grades. So as you can see from the screen in front of you, and as we've mentioned to the Year 5 students at a number of meetings and assemblies, this is the process that we will use to determine the grades. So you can see, and this very much aligns with the off-call infographic which I sent to you with the last update. The evidence that we're going to use will be the mock exams, the diagnostic results, and also the common assessments results. And in some subjects as well, we will use what's referred to as the non-exam assessment, or more commonly as coursework. So we will put all this information together, and what that will allow us to do is to obtain 1 overall mark, and the contribution, as you can see on the right hand side of this slide, is made up of 80%, which comes from the mock score. And that's important because the mock is very detailed in terms of content. As you know, we give the students advance notice of the content, and it's approximately about 4/5 of the overall content that the students have covered from the beginning of the course until the 19th of March of this year, and therefore we're able to put together perhaps 1 or 2 papers, or in some subjects 3 papers, to cover all of the course content. And because this year the results are going to be based on evidence, that gives us a really good evidence base to begin the process of assigning grades, and that's why the mock exam is so important. Diagnostics, which the students took in February, and as you'll appreciate, they went very well and gave us some really good evidence of student achievement. And also we will look at some of the common assessments which students have taken back to September 2019 in most subjects, or from September 2020 for the AQA mathematics course. So we'll put all that information together to gain 1 overall mark, and when we're doing so, in terms of the common assessments, we'll use the best 3 common assessments in any one subject, and that again will be a very positive reflection of student performance, because in many subjects they will have done perhaps 6 or perhaps even 7 common assessments. So when we pick the best 3, that will be very helpful for them, and overall we expect a very positive grade profile from a very able year group. So once we get the overall mark, we use the published grade boundaries to convert those into grades. And as you can see from this next slide, the grade boundaries are much more generous than the grade boundaries that we normally use in school. In school, because every subject, when you look at this yourselves, if you want to, by way of an internet search, you'll see that the grade boundaries differ from one subject to another. So I have chosen, for example, a combination of biology papers, but you can see that to get an A star, to get an 8, you need 75 out of 110. To get a 9, you need 85 out of 110, and a 7, 66 out of 110. It differs a little bit from one paper to the next, but what we'll use is a standard form of the grade boundaries over the last number of years to convert the overall score to a percentage score, and then quite simply use these grade boundaries to guide us in awarding the grades to each student. And as you can hopefully agree, it's a very transparent process for the students. Very much this is still within their own control, because the mock exam is the main contributor. I know you have asked a number of questions, and we will come to those, but most of the questions focus on timing of mock exams, and as you'll appreciate, timing is a function of the environment in the UK, and that's where most of the correspondence is aimed. Schools are either just starting back, or they're due to start back after the Easter vacation in the UK for some of the exam classes, which is around the 12th of April. Unfortunately, we still have the Cambridge exams to take, and those Cambridge exams don't finish for most of the students until the 20th of May. And quite simply, that would be very late for us to put together a full programme of mock exams. And primarily this year, one of the main areas that we as a school have to consider is the process of quality assurance. And every student exam paper has not only to be marked once, it also has to be moderated, signed off by 2 people, and we have an extensive process of quality assurance that we have to make sure that we follow in order to abide by all of the rules and regulations this year. But we'll certainly come back to that at the end via questions. But I hope that's a helpful insight into the process this year. And as I said, it is fully transparent. Everyone is aware of how the data will be used, and there are a number of opportunities using a range of evidence, which is the holistic approach which Ofqual have mentioned throughout the period of study. Thank you.
Good evening, my name's Ursula Pantelides and I'm Senior Assistant Head at the English School. I'm going to talk to you this evening about the school's Apolloderion, which, as many of you know, is a special certificate awarded to Year 7 students when they graduate from the school. So, all students will receive an Apolloderion at the end of Year 7, provided that they meet the basic requirements for this certificate. One of the uses of the certificate is it can be used as a pending qualification when students apply for universities in Year 7 or through the UCAS system as well. It will form part of a university offer if that particular university and that particular course accepts the Apolloderion. And that's where it's necessary to do a little bit of research if you're intending to use this in your application before you make applications to specific institutions. This year, we found it's been a very positive addition to our students' portfolio of qualifications, and many of them have received offers, for example, for 2 A-levels and the school Apolloderion, which have been very positive, very generous indeed. So we're very optimistic about the future and using this Apolloderion in our students' applications. So, the basic requirements for the Apolloderion are quite simple. In Year 7, students must have studied 3 GCE subjects all through the school year at school. Then they must have finished their Greek or their Turkish GCE program, and also in Year 7 they need to have participated in the school's PSHCE program, that is Personal Social Health and Citizenship Education program. So, how do we create the Apolloderion score? Well, we use the 3 mock results that students sit in the spring of Year 7 from the subjects that they've studied in Year 7 at the school. We use year-on-year standardization to assign grades to the mock scores, and basically we choose the best 3 GCE grades, including Greek or Turkish. And the grade is generated, as you see in the slide on the screen. We give A star 100, A 95, B 90, and so on. The total score of the 3 subjects is times by 20, divided by 300 to make a score out of 20. The Apolloderion is then lodged with the Ministry of Education, and leavers receive their Apolloderion at graduation. You might find it helpful now to see what the document looks like. Please look on the screen. It's a very simple document. Students will also receive the Leaving Certificate, which is a separate document from the English School, and on the Leaving Certificate there will be a list of all the external exams they have taken and the grades. So, moving on now to Year 5s and preparations for the next few months. After the end of the spring term, on the 23rd of April, your children will have 2 weeks holiday, obviously, the Easter holidays. They will then be on leave because many of their Cambridge exams begin during the Easter holidays and then continue into May. They'll be on leave until the 20th of May, and then they will return to school from the 24th of May until the 2nd of June in order to consolidate any pending learning from earlier in the term or earlier in the spring term, and for teachers to give them some pointers regarding the Year 6 programme. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, please do ask us. I'm now going to pass on to Mr. Lambon to handle some of the quick Q&A. Thank you.